Chosen one, you may think you were left behind. You may think something was taken from you. But here's the truth. Your solitude has been chosen for you, not against you. This path isn't punishment. It is training. It is placement. It is the hidden hand of God arranging your steps in silence. In Shaolin, the very first temple is not made of stone. It is not built with wood. The first temple is solitude. A monk who cannot sit with himself will never withstand the storm of the world. Before you can master the union with another soul, you must master the union within your own. Why does this matter for you? Because in this quiet season, every doubt, every restless night, every unanswered prayer is shaping your spirit. You are not waiting idly. You are being sharpened. You are learning presence without distraction. You are discovering discipline over desire. These are secrets many never see, because they rush into noise before they can hear silence. Stay with me until the end of this teaching, because you will hear truths rarely spoken. You will see why your solitude carries hidden blessings and why those who are called are often kept apart until the right time. And you will understand how silence, discipline, and balance prepare you for the kind of union that does not break. This journey is for the strong. This journey is for the chosen. And if you are here, it is not by accident. Welcome to Shaolin Soulfire. If these words already speak to something deep within you, subscribe now, so you never walk this path alone. There is a sound louder than any drum, louder than thunder, louder than the voices of the crowd. It is the sound of your own restless mind. Most people never hear it because their lives are filled with noise, conversations, distractions, the pull of relationships that demand constant attention. Yet in the monastery, silence is the first discipline. Not because silence is comfortable, but because only in silence does the mind reveal itself. Shaolin monks spend years sitting with that silence. At first the mind races, filling the stillness with memories, with desires, with regrets. It feels unbearable. But with patience, the storm begins to settle. Thoughts become clear. Awareness sharpens. The silence that once felt heavy becomes a teacher. And the monk learns to see what is usually hidden. This is also why God sometimes keeps you single. It is not to deny you love, but to strip away the noise of constant validation. When there is no partner to reflect your worth back to you, you must discover it within yourself. You learn to live without leaning on another's approval, without chasing constant reassurance. At first, it feels like absence, but slowly you realize it is presence, your own presence uncovered. In this way, solitude becomes sacred. It shows you what is real in you and what is borrowed from others. It gives you the strength to walk with calmness, not because someone else tells you that you are enough, but because you have seen it in the still waters of your own mind. The Shaolin path teaches that silence does not take away, it reveals. And when God chooses to hold you in singleness, He is giving you that same gift, the space to hear yourself clearly, without the world's noise shaping who you think you are. Desire, when left untamed, is like a wild horse. It runs in every direction, chasing whatever stirs its senses. Most people spend their lives pulled this way and that, never realizing how much of their strength is wasted in the chase. Shaolin training is built on the opposite principle. The monk does not deny desire, but disciplines it. Through practice, through breath, through endless repetition, raw impulses are reshaped into focused energy. What was once scattered becomes precise. What was once restless becomes still. This is the same lesson hidden in singleness. When you are kept apart, you feel the pull of longing, the ache for closeness. But that very pull is the fire meant to forge your will. Without the constant drain of giving pieces of yourself away too soon, you have the chance to channel that energy inward. You learn to hold it, to refine it, to use it not as a weight, but as fuel. Ancient teachers often spoke of mastery as containment. A vessel that leaks cannot hold water. A mind that leaks into distraction cannot hold wisdom. And a heart that leaks into every passing desire cannot hold true love when it arrives. By keeping you single, God is sealing the vessel, teaching you to become whole within yourself. It is not an easy test. Discipline never is. But each time you choose focus over impulse, each time you hold your energy instead of scattering it, you grow stronger. You begin to sense a new kind of power, not the power of control over others, but the deeper power of control over yourself. And from this mastery, every other blessing flows in its right season. There is a simple practice in mindfulness, noticing the breath. It sounds small, almost too simple to matter, but when you sit quietly and feel the rise and fall of your chest, the subtle rhythm of air entering and leaving, you are touching the present moment in its purest form. The body becomes a guide. The mind begins to slow. Thoughts pass like clouds, seen but not clung to. This presence is not glamorous, but it is powerful. Relationships often pull the mind outward, toward expectations, toward worries, toward constant dialogue. In that outward pull, it is easy to forget the inner space. But when you are kept single, you are given a rare chance, the opportunity to practice presence without distraction. No one asking for your attention, no constant demand to respond. Just you, the breath, the body, and the quiet awareness that begins to awaken when the noise fades. In many ancient traditions, presence was seen as a form of wealth, not the wealth of coins, but the wealth of spirit. A person who can remain fully here, fully attentive, carries an energy that transforms every space they enter. Their words carry weight. Their silence carries peace. This is why presence is often called a higher currency. It cannot be bought, only cultivated. When you use your time of solitude to build this inner richness, you are preparing yourself in ways unseen. Each moment of mindful awareness strengthens the mind like a blade on stone. Each breath noticed becomes another layer of discipline. Over time, the practice turns into a way of being. And then, when life brings connection again, you bring not need, but presence, an offering far more valuable than desire alone. There is a teaching from the Shaolin path. The pond can only reflect the moon when its surface is still. Disturb the water and the image breaks apart. No matter how bright the moon above, in the same way, your spirit cannot reflect truth when it is constantly shaken by waves of emotion. Relationships often stir those waves. A word of affection can lift you into joy, and a moment of neglect can send you into despair. The highs feel intoxicating, the lows unbearable, but both are storms that prevent you from seeing clearly. When your peace depends on another's presence, you are not truly steady. You are swayed like a leaf in the wind. This is why solitude is such a deep training ground. Alone, you confront your emotions directly. You feel longing rise, and you sit with it. You notice sadness approach, and you breathe through it. In time, you realize that feelings come and go like weather, but the sky itself remains. That sky is your deeper self, undisturbed by passing clouds. Ancient masters called this balance equanimity, the ability to remain centered, whether praised or criticized, cherished or ignored. It is not coldness, it is clarity. Like the still pond, your spirit learns to remain calm so it can reflect others without distortion. Only then can you see them as they are, not as your emotions paint them to be. The strength you build in solitude is not the absence of feeling, but the mastery of it. To hold steady when joy tempts you to lose yourself, and when sorrow tempts you to collapse, that is true discipline. And from that steadiness, every connection you form becomes clearer, purer, and rooted in truth. When life grows quiet, you begin to hear things you once ignored. In the absence of constant distraction, your own words echo back to you. Your own choices stand in clear light. And suddenly, you notice the subtle gaps, the thought you carried but never acted on, the words you spoke that didn't match your heart, the actions you took that betrayed your deeper values. Most people never see these cracks because the noise of daily validation covers them. But in solitude, there is nowhere to hide. Shaolin discipline treats this exposure as a gift. A blade must face fire and hammer before it gains its edge. In the same way, singleness becomes the forge. Each misalignment is revealed, not to condemn you but to be corrected. You learn to bring thought, speech, and action into one line so that what you say reflects what you think and what you do reflects both. This is the path to authenticity. Integrity in ancient teachings was never about perfection. It was about wholeness. A vessel with cracks cannot hold water. A person with divided intent cannot hold wisdom. Solitude gives you the chance to seal those cracks, to become whole, to stand in truth without leaning on anyone else to hold you upright. The discipline is demanding. It requires you to face yourself honestly again and again. But each time you bridge a gap between inner and outer, your strength deepens. Over time, your presence becomes solid. People sense it without you needing to explain. In a world filled with masks, your authenticity becomes rare, even sacred. And this is the quiet mastery that solitude was always meant to shape within you. In the Shaolin tradition, energy is not seen as endless. It is precious, like water drawn from a deep well. This energy called qi is the current that sustains your body, sharpens your mind, and fuels your spirit. Every action, every thought, every emotion either preserves it or spends it. The wise learn to guard it carefully, because once scattered, it is difficult to gather again. This is why solitude can be sacred. When relationships come too early, before there is readiness, they often become places of leaking energy. Constant arguments, insecurity, and misplaced desire drain what should be preserved. The well begins to run dry, not because love itself is wrong, but because the vessel was not yet strong enough to hold it. When God keeps you single, it is often to protect this energy. The time apart is not wasted, it is conservation. The strength that might have been lost in unsteady bonds is instead redirected into growth. You find the focus to study, to train, to create, to serve. The same fire that could have burned wildly in restless passion is refined into the steady flame of purpose. Ancient masters believed that conserving qi was not about denial, but transformation. Desire, discipline, creativity, and service all draw from the same well. The question is where you pour that water. In singleness, you are guided to pour it inward and upward to deepen your roots, to sharpen your skills, to strengthen your spirit. In time, this stored energy becomes power. A person who has guarded their life force walks differently. Their presence carries weight. Their words carry impact. And when the moment of union finally comes, it is no longer a leaking of energy, but a joining of two overflowing wells. There is a difference between loneliness and solitude, though at first they look the same. Loneliness feels like an empty room, a silence that presses against the heart, a reminder of what is missing. Solitude, however, is the same room transformed. It becomes a sanctuary, a space alive with presence rather than absence. The shift is not in the room itself, but in the one who sits within it. Mindfulness is the bridge between these two states. When you sit quietly and let yourself breathe, when you notice the texture of each thought without running from it, the ache of loneliness begins to soften. You start to see that the silence is not a punishment, but an opening. In that opening, you discover your own company. You begin to feel whole even when no one else is near. Ancient teachers understood this as a stage of spiritual maturity. A child clings to others for reassurance. A seeker clings to distractions for comfort. But the one who has ripened learns to stand alone, not with bitterness but with peace. Independence here is not isolation, it is strength. It is knowing you can carry your own light, and so you do not fear the dark. In solitude, the heart learns to overflow from within. You realize that joy does not depend on another's presence. Gratitude does not require an audience. Love does not vanish when you are alone. It flows inward, filling the emptiness until it becomes fullness. This transformation is quiet, almost invisible to the world. Yet within, it marks a turning point. The ache of loneliness becomes the strength of solitude. And from that strength, every connection you form later is no longer born of need, but of abundance. Clarity is a rare gift. Most lives are filled with constant pull, affections, arguments, endless exchanges that scatter the mind in 100 directions. When the heart is tangled, focus becomes blurry. You move, but without precision. You act, but without depth. It is like trying to carve with a dull blade. This is why seasons of singleness hold hidden strength. Without the weight of romantic entanglements, the mind begins to clear. You notice your thoughts more sharply, your time more fully, your energy more intentionally. What once leaked into constant drama is now gathered, ready to be shaped. This gathered energy is what allows purpose to come into view. The Shaolin path often compares discipline to the sharpening of a blade. A weapon does not become sharp by accident. It is ground, refined, honed again and again. The process requires patience and sometimes sparks, but the result is precision, the ability to cut cleanly, to move decisively. In the same way, solitude grinds away distraction. It sharpens the will. It strips away what is unnecessary so that what remains can strike with clarity. This focus is not harsh, it is freeing. When you are not bound to constant emotional storms, you can walk directly toward your calling. You have the time to train, to study, to pray, to create. Every step is deliberate, every action connected to a greater aim. Ancient wisdom teaches that one who masters focus holds more power than 1,000 who scatter their strength. Singleness offers this mastery. It grants the stillness required to see, the discipline required to act, and the clarity required to shape a life aligned with purpose. Like a monk sharpening his blade, you are preparing for the battles only you can fight. In the old Shaolin halls, a student was never given a weapon on the first day. To hand a sword to untrained hands would only invite harm. Instead, the novice swept floors, carried water, and repeated the same movements for years until discipline became second nature. Only then, when mastery began to show, was responsibility entrusted. The order was clear: first mastery, then responsibility. Life follows the same pattern. A relationship is not merely companionship, it is responsibility. It calls for patience, truth, balance, and strength. To step into that bond without inner training is like wielding a blade without skill. Someone will be wounded, often both. This is why God sometimes withholds it, not to punish, not to deprive, but to prepare. In singleness, the hidden training unfolds. You learn to steady your emotions, to align your actions with your words, to hold yourself accountable without leaning on another to carry your weight. These disciplines may seem small, but they are foundations. Without them, love easily turns into dependency. With them, love becomes partnership, rooted not in need, but in strength. Ancient perspectives saw this preparation as sacred timing. Just as a seed cannot be rushed to fruit before its roots are deep, so too the soul cannot be rushed into union before it has grown steady within itself. Singleness is that rooting process, the unseen work beneath the surface. When the time finally comes, the bond will not arrive as a remedy for emptiness, but as an expansion of fullness. Two whole vessels meeting, not to complete each other, but to pour into one another. That is why mastery must come first. So responsibility, when it arrives, is not a burden but a blessing. So let this truth settle in your heart. Your singleness is not an accident, and it is not a punishment. It is sacred design. In this season, you are being shaped in ways that noise and distraction could never allow. Discipline is being planted. Mindfulness is deepening. Your inner strength is finding its roots. When the time comes, love will not arrive to rescue you. It will arrive to expand you. Partnership will flow from fullness, not from lack. And that difference is everything. A bond built from wholeness carries balance, clarity, and peace. Until then, treat this solitude as training. Use the quiet to sharpen your mind, steady your spirit, and walk with awareness. Each day is an opportunity to grow more aligned, more authentic, more present. That is how you turn this season into a gift instead of a burden. Thank you for walking this path with us. May your silence bring wisdom, and may your solitude bring strength. This is Shaolin Soulfire. If these words have spoken to you today, like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe so you never miss the teachings waiting for you here. Peace be with you.